About it. Okay, about it. I now realize I might need some jingle music or something to have the start of this. Welcome to the a live episode of the Not So Traveling Introvert. We're trying at a different time this week, and it'll be the same time next week, but on a different day to accommodate our listeners from around the world. If you're listening on Bullhorn FM, just a quick sort of housekeeping. There you can call in with any questions. You can ask any questions in the chat, and you can also be in the chat. And there, hello, Nick. Welcome. I'm going to say hello to you because I can chat to you. All right. So today we are going to talk about burnout. So if you have any questions or anything specific that you want me to cover, please feel free to put them in the chat. You can talk amongst yourselves, or you can put it in the questions, and I will try and keep an eye on that. I do have to scroll on my screen to see that, so I'll check back every little bit to see what's going on. And the reason why I picked burnout for this particular episode is it's something that actually came up with a client of mine yesterday, but also, I don't know about you, but with the holidays uh, being at the weekend, didn't exactly feel like I got a break. Um, and a lot of leaders that I'm talking with also didn't feel like they got a break. Plus, the past 2 years worth of the world burning and people just feeling overwhelmed in general. So I wanted to talk about burnout. And I'm going to start with sort of talking about burnout in general and then talking about ways you might feel burnt out, and then moving forward to talk about ways that you can try and alleviate that burnout. Now, sometimes you're going to see me looking to the right because I have another screen. There's two screens, so I can look at you and also look at like the information that I have at hand. But I don't know about you. I don't know if any of you have ever felt burnout, that overwhelming feeling of being overwhelmed, that overwhelming feeling of being overwhelmed, not being able to do anything or do enough, having no motivation, and kind of feeling like nothing you do is going to make a difference. Sometimes a lack of work life balance, and sometimes just it's the inability to set boundaries and limits. And you don't feel it coming per se. There's never a time when you're like, at this point, this is when burnout kicked in. It tends to be this slow burn, and you don't feel it coming. You just know that you have to keep pushing on, and you do. And you're kind of ignoring what your body's telling you or what your mind's telling you because you just have to keep on pushing through. You just have to keep on doing what you're doing because whatever's going on, work's going on, life's going on, and you keep doing it. And all of a sudden, you crash and burn. You lose your drive, your ambition, your self-compassion, your stress levels rise, your anxiety skyrockets, and you start to want to sort of isolate yourself. And it's not tiredness per se, it's something else. It's a form of burnout. And I have no doubt that my fellow listeners here have felt burnout at some point in their lives, mainly because it happens to virtually all of us. I mean, we live in a hyper-capitalistic society, and while that can oftentimes be a wonderful thing, we are often consumed with the reality that we are working intensely for who knows how many hours per day and trying to be productive and give our best every single second of the day. And things pile up and keep piling up until you can't see beyond that pile. And then you get like eventually you're like physically and mentally and emotionally exhausted. You're spent. And burnout appears to be happening more and more these days, or more to the point, people are now being educated and now have more information about what that is. And it's becoming more commonplace and becoming more of this is just the way it is. So out of curiosity on the burnout question, let me ask you all, do you think that you are currently experiencing burnout? Does any of what I've just said make you think, ooh, maybe I'm experiencing burnout. Maybe that's what's going on in my life. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a combination of these things. But let me know if you think you're currently experiencing burnout. There is a poll. Probably see it somewhere on your screen and just click yes or no or not sure or whatever it might be. But go ahead and vote, dear listeners and watchers of the show. I will say for myself, right now, I'm probably experiencing low-level burnout. I would say that is definitely, I've, I was talking to someone recently about when I had experienced high-level burnout and how I tried to ignore it. Many years ago, there was a time in my life where I was working 3 jobs and trying to get through life. And then one day I was putting my jacket on to go outside and I couldn't lift my arm more than about here. If you're watching on the video, it's about shoulder height. And I didn't think too much of it. I was just like, oh, that's kind of weird. And it wasn't because I'd been hitting it hard at the gym or done anything or strained it or what have you. I just physically couldn't move it higher than here. None of this arm stretchy wavy stuff. I just physically couldn't do it. And it wasn't that it hurt, it just wouldn't move. I continued working because that's what you do. And then other things happened. And only looking back did I realize, my body was trying to tell me something, and I chose to ignore it. And then worse things happened. So it wasn't necessarily the best. So looking at the poll, we've got 50-50. And I could be the tiebreaker. That some people think they're experiencing burnout right now, and someone said no. And let me check the chat because I promised I would, and I don't want to miss anything. Okay, I voted no because I'm not experiencing burnout at the moment, but I'm listening in because my girlfriend is experiencing extreme burnout at her job. Oh, Nick, you're wonderful. All right, so I will continue on. Yes, I at my peril, I didn't listen to my body, and it didn't end well, particularly. All right, so now we all know as humans we deal with things differently. Introverts and extroverts and humans individually sort of deal with things differently. So anything that I talk about here now, all the things won't work for you, all the things might work for you. It's just, take what works or try what might work because we're all different. And for introverts, burnout can hit real hard. If you've ever felt burnout, then you know that it kind of isolates you further and further and makes the feeling of pressure seem more inducing for anxiety and stress. But let me roll back a little bit. What really is burnout? The World Health Organization, the WHO, defines burnout as a syndrome resulting from a chronic workplace stress that hasn't been managed well. The WHO categorizes burnout through feelings of energy depletion, exhaustion, reduced efficiency or productivity, increased negativity, and cynicism in one's job. And I'm sure at some point we've all been there and been like, yeah, no, this job can go jump. And it happens. But as introverts, we can feel that painful reality of burnout even more than non-introverts because it brings on just that higher level of stress and anxiety. And knowing as introverts how we react to stress and anxiety, it's also natural for us to feel the pains of burnout pretty hard. Now, I don't know if you've heard about introverted burnout. And this isn't only limited to the workplace. Introvert burnout indeed involves stress induced from continuously socializing, being forced to socialize and interact with others, whether it be in the workplace or in social settings when we're repeatedly forced to interact and drain ourselves in large groups or be overstimulated. It's often inevitable to feel that weight of exhaustion come on like a wave. And with some people, it's just like you hit a brick wall and you're like, nope, I'm done. I need to get out. I just That's what a lot of people sort of experience. And it can be just the result of too much socializing and too little time to recharge. And generally, it happens to those of us who work or study in environments where we spend a lot of hours talking and exchanging ideas with other people and doing this back and forth communication with more than one person. Maybe it's a group and lots of group work. And also paired with a lack of substantial quality alone time to recharge and get like focused work done. And therefore, you get the reduced amount of quality conversations or interactions, and even a lengthy exposure to overwhelming environments with loud noises or something happening or strong smells. It's all adds on and compounds that feeling. But sometimes it can just happen when you've returned from a family reunion or hanging out with your friends at an event. You've just spent hours or even a whole day with people and you're being socially active, which is great. But by the time you come home, you're exhausted both physically and mentally. So how do you know if you have burnout? If the descriptions that I've been talking about have been any indication to your reality or somebody else's reality that you know, then I'm going to talk about some symptom checkers to see if it's like burnout. So one symptom could be, hang on, I'm going to check. I always want to check stuff, make sure everyone's cool. All right, is you're easily irritated. I totally be one of those people, you come home from a long day, so if you've been out at work, and immediately irritated when somebody speaks to you because you need that decompression time. And it's even worse now if you're working from home because you don't have that commute time from the office to home. It's home to home, and you might walk out of your office door as soon as your last meeting is over and someone speaks to you and you're like, no. So it could be the fact that you don't have pesto for your pasta, or your favorite pajamas aren't clean. In this case, exhaustion is directly translated into frustration, which manifests itself as irritation. And everything and anything can tick you off. And if this sounds like you could be burnt out. Another thing could be you're easily distracted. Has it ever happened to you that you're trying to set yourself down to work and you just can't concentrate? You know you have deadlines, you know you have an assignment, or you have to complete a task, but for some apparent reason, you just can't do it. Chances are you're burning out. And it might be that you're constantly reaching for your phone to check the socials or watching videos on YouTube, reading the news, turning on the telly. You might be surfing the web or online shopping, or perhaps you're like, I don't know, ironing up some interesting kitchen knickknacks or reading some gossip, whatever it might be. You just can't and won't do the work. It could be burnt out, or it could be like you don't like the work. But forcing yourself to do something when you're physically and mentally can't is your brain telling you, you're burnt out. A third thing is you could find it really difficult to make even the smallest decisions because you're suffering from decision fatigue. And I'm sure this has happened to everyone at some point. Like, I know you've just got home and you're staring at your pantry, you know you're hungry, you know you want to make dinner, but you're just like, nothing, I can eat nothing in here. Even if you've just finished shopping, like, no, there's nothing. Or to decide what it is that you want to make for dinner. It's impossible. You don't know if you want some pasta or some rice, chicken, tofu tacos, pizza, simple salad. It's just like, you want everything, but you don't want any of it. And this can happen when you're so physically and mentally drained that you can't even seem to think straight about simple matters like food, which you know you need, right? And for sure, some people, a dinner choice is important as deciding a major, but the truth is deciding what you will eat or shouldn't consume you so much that you're apathetic and indecisive. Another one could be that you're anxious. Anxiety comes and goes for most of us, but sometimes it's there for like a lot of time. And when you're mentally and physically burnt out, chances are any mental disorders that you might have or mental challenges that you are going through will be exacerbated. Physical and mental exhaustion takes over and you become a lot more susceptible to feeling anxious. If you've ever come home after a long day and you feel anxious, the chances are you're burnt out. And as we all know, anxiety can arise from a multitude of factors, from the seemingly minuscule to something bigger. That anxiety after a long day of work might signify that you're indeed burnt out. All right, last one. Number 5, your mind feels foggy. Woo, brain fog. Very much kind of like when you're easily distracted or when you're anxious, your mind can feel like a grey cloud. Nothing's decipherable. You can't really think straight. You can't make decisions. You can't solve problems. You can't concentrate. These are all symptoms for you to feel like your mind is just so tired it can't function. And I'm sure if this has happened to you, you've probably reached for coffee or for tea or an energy drink, like, or chocolate and ice cream, because you're like, well, maybe I'm just tired and I need a little pick me up. And you might have noticed that that doesn't work. The coffee doesn't clear your mind, but only accelerates your blood pressure. You become more anxious and more confused about why you feel the way that you do. Anxiety, depression, mood swings, they're all exacerbated, but your mental fogginess isn't cleared. This is a super important sign that you're most likely burnt out. As we talked about before, burnout doesn't let you think straight. And nothing perhaps is more evident than lacking clarity in your mind. Having clarity is synonymous with having peace and a resounding stability that allows you to perform better. And burnout effectively upturns all of that. And because you're not thinking straight and because you are foggier, you're more likely to make mistakes. And then this is downward spiral. So now that I've spelled out some important symptoms of burnout, I'm going to ask a question again. Previously, have you experienced burnout? Hi, Louise. Yes to all of these. I shouldn't laugh. I'm so sorry. It's just you had a little the LOL thing. Yeah, it's huge. So I put a little poll up. Have you experienced burnout? Ooh, not sure. Ooh, I want more info on the not sure. Whoever that might be, if they wish to put a question in the chat or tell me some more, I'm curious what makes you think maybe, maybe not, or there's other stuff going on, or we're not sure. But thank you so much for answering. All right, so now that I've spelled out some of the more like high-level symptoms of burnout, you're probably asking yourself, well, geez, I get burnout all the time. It seems that this happens a lot, or more frequently than I would like. Is it really a big deal? Why is burnout bad? So as I've said, burnout can either produce or exacerbate any mental conditions that you have, or just even if you don't, it can worsen your anxiety, stress, depression, mood swings, or it can begin to introduce these things into your life. Burnout is a great signal from both your body and your brain that you need to take a step back. When you're stressed, as we all know, you can't think clearly. You might gain weight, you might lose weight, you might pick up bad habits, you might overconsume caffeine, or ice cream or chocolate. When burnout leads to depression, we then feel more isolated, more alone, more cynical, less constructive, and less productive. So, and as introverts, burnout can further isolate us and make us feel less likely to open up to others. Social burnout can lessen the frequency of our social interactions, making us feel more lonely. See this vicious cycle here? And it's one of those things. And professional burnout in the workplace, we're even less likely to say anything or make important changes to our work or lifestyle because we might feel that we don't have the power to, or that could affect things moving forward. And so we then kind of suffer more in our little bubble and see more consequences of stress because you're hiding and you're fighting all of these things. And we become, in effect, blind to our surroundings, and our surroundings become blind to us. As we suffer from burnout, it's super important to allow yourself not only to open up, but to find a path towards mediating the highly stressful lifestyle that you're living in, so that because otherwise you'll feel that you're losing yourself, and then there's no coming back from that sort of a thing. So I want to talk a little bit about how we can recover from burnout. And I'm going to preface this by, it is not immediate. There is no magic pill. There is no one thing that will solve burnout. I mean, technically, it's having better managers, less workload, less expectations, less things on productivity. But there's no like one thing. There's no one thing that will solve it and make everything better. Having said that, be kind to yourself. This will take time, and it's not a straight line forward. There'll be dips and curves and valleys and all of that thing, just like life, right? So the sneaky thing about burnout is sometimes you can't always see it coming. You might be at a social event, or you might be on a trip with your friends. You're probably having a good time, and it's fine. But by the time you get out of the event, you feel exhausted and you think to yourself, where did the time go? Or when you get home, you're so emotionally, mentally, and physically drained that you just can't think straight. Or take, for example, your time at work. You're working hard and pushing yourself every day until one day all of a sudden you find yourself completely incapacitated to do anything. Perhaps you feel the grind, but you also never expected it to lead you to this place of such inability, because burnout can sometimes leave you feeling so unable to complete like any task. You don't see it coming, but now you have it. How do you recover? How do you get back to that place where you're able to distinguish between work, life, personal well-being, and be emotionally okay and not have brain fog? As you can imagine, it's not permanent, but the first step, and probably the most important step, is realizing that you are burnt out or on the way to burnt out, and that you're actually overworked. Addressing that situation and admitting it allows for you to be more clear about what actually caused it. If you deny that you have burnout and it's just another day, or it will pass, or it's just because of the season, or it's because my boss, or because, insert reason here, you are allowing for it to grow and keep going, which will only put you in a worse position. So if you can address that you indeed have burnout, but refuse to acknowledge the cause, you'll find yourself in a dangerous perpetual cycle where you just keep going until your body doesn't. There's someone that I know, she was so burnt out that she couldn't get out of bed. And not like for a day, but for more like half a year, because she ignored the signs of burnout. And she is still, to this day, and I met her 3 years ago, still dealing with the after effects of burnout. So take the time to analyze what caused the burnout. Think about what triggers the stress levels, what makes you anxious. Think about work. Is it getting too overwhelming? Why is it getting too overwhelming? Are you having more phone calls than you used to? Are the expectations of your work higher than they used to be? Are you getting enough time to actually do the work and sit down and a space for 2 hours in your calendar to sit down and do the work that you're supposed to do? Or like so many companies right now, every day is just back to back to back to back to back to back to back meetings with no time to decompress. Are you feeling nervous and anxious about work? Do you find yourself spending and dedicating countless hours to your work only to kind of leave work with a headache? Or what did I actually accomplish today? Thoughts. Or maybe it's people. Maybe you feel drained after talking to someone for so long and want to allow yourself space and time alone, but just can't because you're going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. These are all legitimate situations that can lead to burnout. In order to prevent them, you should try opening, just observing what might be bringing on that burnout, writing it down, and keeping a journal, just making a note of every time that you feel a little brain fog, or that you feel overwhelmed, or when you feel anxious, or when you're like, I can't do it, or feeling like you've got a loss of focus. And talking with other people, because having an outside view can help things, because we're all so trapped in our thoughts and our world and our bubbles. Just talking to somebody else and saying this and this and this and this, and because of this I feel like this, they might be able to pinpoint different things. Because even if you yourself do not know what's causing the burnout, talking to someone can help you realize, or just verbalizing it, what's going on, and perhaps open your eyes to the situation. Wait, Nick says I meant to vote yes. uh, oh, all right, that's good. So it was yes and yes. So it was 2 yeses. All right, thanks for the clarification. All right. So by the time you've identified the cause of your burnout, it's super important not to just gloss over it, right? Maybe take some time off work if you can. I know it's really hard to possibly take vacation, meditate, just sitting. These days it's so hard for us to just sit. I was reading about an art teacher in a university where one of the first things, like tasks that she set her class, was to go to pick their nearest like art place and go look at a painting. Great, it's an art class. Of course they should go look at paintings. But no, she had them go and sit and look at one painting for 3 hours. No more, no less, but 3 hours. And you know why? Because how difficult it is for us in this day and age to sit and observe something, and I don't mean a TV, for 3 hours and not fidget and not want to look at our phone and not want to talk to a friend or not want to be distracted by like the other pretty painting over there. And what she found was people would sit, and at about the 45-minute mark, they'd kind of be like, okay, fine, I'm not going to look at the other photo, I'm going to look at like this one. And then you start to notice things in the painting that you hadn't noticed before, because you just like, oh, well, that paint line like is echoed throughout the painting, or there's an odd shadow that I never noticed before. Like just to sit and try and take it all in. And it's super. I haven't tried to do it, and maybe I should try it as an experiment. I can see how hard it is, because just staring at like one thing. No, careful, it's a Van Gogh. Like looking at one thing for 3 hours, but it was for her art students to understand that creativity takes time, sitting somewhere and observing all the thoughts and things that went into creating this piece of art, and just being at home with just being. And you know what? I don't know how many people could do that now. So, sorry, back to what I was talking about. Take some time off work, set boundaries for yourself. Perhaps you don't want to work 10 hours every single day, but you work 9 or 8 hours every single day. Try not going to all the events, fear of missing out. Or if there's certain places or people that drain you more than others, try and limit the time you spend with them. Set aside your phone for a bit. Don't scroll through social media. Or I have a friend who took social media off her phone. I don't think she's anymore on Instagram, and it was great for her. Set alarms to say how long you're going to dedicate to a specific task. So here's something we're really bad at as humans. We're really bad at figuring out how much time something's going to take. And if we say, oh, this thing's going to take me 3 hours, it was something you could do in 30 minutes, but you're just going to take up the whole 3 hours. So if you can give yourself like, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes and then stop, walk away and do something else, that might help. Don't check your emails every 5 minutes. Check them, I know, 3 times a day. So at 9, 12, and 3, I don't know, whatever works for you. Set, I don't like the words goals, targets. Don't, we as humans only have so many hours on this planet, and we don't technically know how many of those hours are, but we're always trying to accomplish or set ourselves things that are just too much, far too much. Don't try and accomplish so much in so little time that you push yourself excessively. It only hurts you in the end and induces your stress and anxiety level. Space out your targets and your goals into seasons and how you want to achieve them and when you want to achieve them. Remember, be honest with yourself and with other people. Saying no and knowing what your boundaries are. And I have something on boundaries. We can talk about boundaries next week, because this is super, super important. Tell somebody. It can be really hard to open up, but with burnout, telling somebody else is really, really important. And ask me questions, or oh wait, is that even possible, Luis? Was that due to the like staring at a painting for 3 hours? Possibly that one. What I would say is show compassion to yourself. Know what times of the day work well for you, which hours you can be productive and which hours are less productive. If you can try and get more time, and if you have control over your calendar, what that looks like. If you don't, say you work in corporate, you have to work 9 to 5, and that's just what it is, then your free time outside of work is where you need to concentrate on dealing with working on burnout and recovering from it. And so figuring out what recharges you. Do you have a recharge list? I talk about this a lot. It's kind of like a bucket list, but not for like places I want to go in the world, but things that recharge you. Is it sitting alone? Is it reading? Is it coloring? Is it kneading bread? Is it playing in the snow? Having this list of things that helps recharge you, try and squeeze at least 2 of those in per day, especially for like the 5 minutes thing, like the kneading bread thing, because your energy level and your recharge level, as far as burnout is concerned, little and often is better than nothing at all. So doing things that will help you recharge and feel at peace, as well as if you don't have control over your own sort of hours because of work. Um, I would say also things that have worked for me or for other people is sleep. It sounds silly. Napping and sleep. Your body repairs itself and does lots of things while it's sleeping. Your brain can't be foggy when you're sleeping. Um, I highly recommend sleeping or napping. But I have been told that napping is a skill. I am blessed enough to be able to have it. Some other people, it's harder. Um, Doodling, journaling about how you're feeling, and so getting it out is also helpful. And when I say journaling, I just mean finding I don't know, I don't know, like a book, and just writing stuff down. And then you can tear it out, throw it in the bin, burn it. Just don't start a fire. It's not something that you have to be like, I'm going to put my heart and soul into this thing. No one has to read it. It's just like a word vomit of stuff that you're feeling, because getting it out will also help you bring to light what might be causing the burnout or things that you need to change and adjust. So, Nick, are you still around, my friend? Um, did any of this help, or do you have any questions or specific things that I might be able to answer for you um, and your girlfriend? Because I'm here for you all. So, if I can help in any way, please stick it in the chat. Or ask it as a question, and I would be happy to answer it. I know a lot of it is about boundaries, and like I said, I'm going to be talking about that next week, Wednesday, same that time, same that place. Okay, Louise, you mentioned you knew someone that they felt burnout for years. Yes. What did the person do to get there, and what can they do to get out? So she was running marathons and working 2 jobs and doing a lot of work with sharks, believe it or not. She's a huge fan of sharks. So doing a lot of swimming, scuba diving, went around the world to not earn money. When you give to charity, to get people to give money to saving sharks. And she was lucky enough that she had a partner that could pay bills while she was flat out in bed. To get out of it, she had to take it day by day. It was a case of, can you get up to use the restroom? Okay. Then with sleep. Getting nutrients was a problem because wanting to eat was just taking up too much energy. Then it was sort of like, okay, can you sit up? How long can you sit up for? And then it went on to like, can you sit up and eat? Okay, can you sit up and read a little bit? She could read not from a screen, but she could read like actual books. But for her, it was rest. She just needed to lie there and sleep and rest. And she stopped traveling so much. That's one thing that, I mean, before all of this, she also stopped traveling so much. And she found her ideal home in this beautiful place in New Zealand, because, New Zealand. But it's this gorgeous, like, wooden cabin type house with views of a beach. And it's her and her dog and her partner, and she makes art. But we are not all that lucky. And I don't want to pretend that we are. She was lucky enough that she had a partner and some insurance so that she could do that and afford to do that. Some people don't have that option, and it's real hard. And getting as much help as you can, telling people so that they can help you. But yeah, like I said, finding those things that nourish your body and your mind. Just sit there and sort of letting your mind work through whatever it needs to work through. It's kind of why we get really good ideas in the shower or when we're like doing the washing up or the laundry, because we're doing mundane stuff, and that gives our brain time to work on the like hard stuff that we need to work on. Yeah, and so it's been 3 years now, and there's been relapses for sure. And she's had to like learn to to live with what you can and can't do, it can affect you for a really, really long time. This is an extreme case, but I've seen it and it's terrifying. So if you feel that you might be getting burnt out, see what you can do to mitigate that and be kind to yourself. Don't think it's going to happen overnight. Did that help, Luis? And I guess that Nick's not around anymore. Or I answered his questions. And, oh, wait. Did I get anything there? No. All right. So I guess this leads me to this question that I'm going to ask all the time. I'm just going to ask this all the time. So what do you currently do to recharge? What things do you like to do? I said I like to nap. Sleeping's my thing. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm going to go sleep. And it's possibly not the best thing because I'm just like, it's an avoidance tactic, to be fair. But it does help because I get up and then do other things because otherwise my brain just keeps like, going. Some people meditate, some people like to read, some people like to color, some people like to play video games. Team nap, yeah. Oh, I feel like that's a t-shirt. I feel like that should be a thing. Is team #team nap. The other one I've got t-shirt wise is introversion is a feature, not a bug. That's the other one too. Team nap. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in, for listening, for chatting, for I hope this was helpful. Please let me know other things that you would like me to talk about. I will be doing live episodes at least 3 times a month for the foreseeable future. So did this time work for people? Do you like it earlier, later? I would love your feedback because this will only help make the show better for y'all. All right, let me move this over here. All right, if there is nothing else that people want me to talk about or do, or Nick, I really hope I was helpful to you, but I don't know if you're still around. Louise, thank you so much. All right, so thank you, everyone. This will be the end. Thank you for listening to The Traveling, or the Not So Traveling these days, Introvert. My name is Janice, and I am at thecareerintrovert.com, helping you build your brand and get hired. Have a great rest of your week.